How fantastic to be here tonight with these fantastic co-speakers. Tonight is also 1 week away from my 15th anniversary of retiring from my first career. In that career, this is 15 years ago, I defended a PhD on customer loyalty. And a few weeks after this, I went out and got my first real job as a manager in a large global organization. In a time where digitalization was causing major disruption, we were having to rethink everything we did because suddenly the customers could do what we had previously been doing for themselves. We had to reorganize. Lots of people had to realize their old expertise wasn't quite relevant anymore. Quite a hassle. Do you recognize these situations? Quite many of us do. In a few weeks' time, my passion for understanding customer loyalty turned into a passion for understanding what do human beings actually do at work, and how could we lead so that we have top performance and have people who actually want to come to work to do their very best. And that's been my mission since then. Because so many things that we do when we organize, when we lead, even if we all recognize the world is quite chaotic, fast-paced and changing, actually has its roots in an era where things were quite different. In an era where we were trying to achieve stability, predictability, avoiding deviations, and in many ways trying to get human beings to perform a bit like machines. In an era where our scarcest resource was usually the financial ones. In this era, there were quite a lot of situations where the bosses actually had all the right answers. And good leadership could be about giving commands, getting people to comply, and controlling for the outcome. And in some cases, that might still work today. But in most cases, this stable, predictable work is being taken over by the non-humans, the robots. And what's left for us human beings is the work where we need to be creative, where we need to have people collaborate, where we need to have great communication. And in this era, there's new leadership challenges. And there's new resources that are much scarcer than the financial ones that we have grown so fond of managing well. And tonight I'm going to talk about 3 of these scarce resources: talent, trust, and time. So talent. We've been saying there's a war for talent going on already for ages. It still is on, and what's changing is that all these fancy platforms we are having access to today is making it increasingly easy for the most talented ones to choose how to sell their talent, in what kind of chunks, and to whom. So it's easy to say, yes, we are fighting for the best talent. But if we want to be really serious about getting the best talent to want to join us, to actually work for us, we need to get extremely ambitious about the people experience we're going to provide. And that's, again, a thing that's easy to say. But honestly, how many organizations can say, when you make the big decisions, we consider their impact not only on the financial positions and on the customer experience, but also on the people experience? How many can say talent and people issues are really high on the board and management team agendas? How many can say our HR director is as important as our CFO? Some organizations can, but I think many more will need to look at these things quite seriously. So, once we are successful in really attracting the best talent, we have a new scarce resource to take great care of. The resource is quite a popular word nowadays: trust. So many studies coming out these last few years saying trust or psychological safety is the key building block for high performance in teams and organizations, and also a key reason we fail when we try to collaborate and reach high performance. And how do you actually build trust? That's a question we meet often when we work with leadership development. And lots of studies coming out also on this topic. Lots of studies saying what kind of behaviors to apply when you're going to lead to have trust. And behaviors are great, but what if there's something even more important? Not only what you do, but how you are, your way of being. Trust is actually quite dependent on having a sense of predictability, consistency. And if there's an inconsistency between what you're doing and your way of being, that's not an optimal place for trust to thrive. And I'd like to use the little metaphor of a gadget many of you have in your hands right now, the phone. On this phone, we can put in all kinds of fancy applications. That could be the management behaviors. But underneath all that, there's something even more powerful, more invisible, more fuzzy for us non-technical people. That's the operating system. And yes, you can keep downloading all kinds of fancy apps. But if you have the wrong kind of operating system, the apps won't work. And if we look at leadership situations, it's easy to learn to say, I trust you, or I empower my people. But if your way of being is saying something else, and a typical operating system for many ambitious managers is, it's my job to have the right answers. It's my job to help people be successful. It's my job to motivate people. Then your way of being is not consistent with your behavior, with the apps you're trying to run. And that's not the ideal situation for full trust to evolve. But we can also look at this on an organizational level. It's quite popular to run the apps of saying, we are not hierarchical. We all want to collaborate. We want to collaborate bravely across silos. We need to take risks and we need to fail fast. That's actually a big thing to ask human beings. Go out and fail. So we're running these apps, but underneath that, we still have quite a lot of operating systems saying, you're not really supposed to fail. We measure your success. We have quite a lot of operating systems, even if we say, let's collaborate bravely across the silos. Quite many operating systems saying, I measure you in your unit. I measure your individual performance, not really what we're bravely doing across all silos. So I'm hoping you're going to go back home and you're going to look at if you have the right operating system and to what extent it's supporting the apps you are running, either as an individual leader or in your company. The third resource, scarce resource I want to talk to you about tonight is one I think we all recognize is a real non-renewable resource. Time. How many feel there's not enough time in your daily lives? Quite many of us do. And some go and take time management courses as individuals. And yes, we all know time is important. But if we look at how we manage time, still today, in most organizations, we don't have the same kind of rigor as we have for managing the financial resources. In most organizations, virtually anyone can call a meeting. They can decide who to invite, how many to invite, how long a meeting they're going to have, what kind of decisions, if any, and how to follow up. And this leakage of time is one of the key reasons the greatest talent doesn't want to work for us. Who would, if they're going to spend 10 hours a day back to back in meetings without even having time to go to the toilet? So I'm hoping you're going to go back and look at how are we using time? Are we making smart decisions? And where could we save time? But there's something even more important, especially if you're going to be serious about trust. And that's looking at where you need to invest time. Because in our strive for efficiency, there's been a lot of cutting chances of losing time. And if we actually want to have trust between human beings form, we need to realize trust is a biological phenomenon. There's a reason handshakes were born. There's a reason human beings started touching each other and looking each other in the eye to realize he's not going to kill me. And I find it quite unreasonable, I hope, quite unreasonable that even weekly we meet managers who are asked to manage virtual teams without sometimes even having met the people they are asked to manage, or to run high-performing teams without ever having the chance to have everyone in the room at the same time. So yes, go out and cut away the extra time where you can, but please also look at, just as with the financial resources, where you need to invest if you're going to be serious about having trust. So it's not easy, but lovely to stand up here tonight and talk about these issues I feel so passionately about. Does that mean I hacked this? I'm doing all this perfectly in my own job as a manager? I wish I could say yes, but unfortunately, no. And why is that? It's because this huge knowing-doing gap we human beings have. We know what we should be doing, but then in practice, we end up doing something else, especially if we're a bit busy or stressed. So what can you do about this? You can practice. You can build the muscles of doing the new things. But even before you reach the goal through that, you can try to get colleagues around you that will tell you when you fail. Tell you what's getting in the way of you being a good manager of their talent, their trust, and their time. And again, that's a big thing to ask. Come and tell me when I fail. How can we get people to do that? We can make it safe, maybe even fun. And in my team and with our customers, we have a metaphor for this. Have you ever been in a situation where you see someone walk out from the ladies' room and they have a piece of paper stuck on them somewhere? Did you see that happening? Did it happen to you? Did you want to know? Yeah, toilet papers are very visible, but these unproductive manager behaviors are less visible. But it's as interesting to know, actually, I have a toilet paper on me. I'm doing something that's getting in my way. So talk to your team members and your colleagues. Tell them, I'd like to know when I'm doing something unproductive. And when they come and say, Christina, there's something I see getting in the way, would you like to know? Say yes. And listen to them. And yes, it might be painful, but I promise you it will help you build the muscles towards being a slightly better manager of talent, trust, and time. When you saw my heading, I'm sure some of you thought, well, leadership of tomorrow. Isn't this true already today? And yeah, you're right. It is. But that's why I'd like to use the word tomorrow to challenge you. What time will you invest tomorrow to take a small step in doing one of these things a bit more than previously? Thank you.